We begin week 3 of the green grade by expanding our knowledge and developing greater abilities with the pensa scudo humano. The boys start by mixing how they enter the pensa scudo humano. It is the emotional movement that will ultimately dictate how we use the shield, so we need to make sure that we understand and have a great technical ability with the area in question, and then continue to cultivate via the training our blood reaction. The word trapping is an interesting one as far as the martial art world is concerned, and usually has a pretty conditioned response as to what is actually classified as a trap or trapping. For all of us here at KFM, trapping is applicable and encompasses all areas of study. It blends and connects with anything really, because it's only a reflection of our ability and understanding, and if the mind carries a condition, well, you know the answer to that one by now. Here we isolate punching from sitting. It's one of the major areas that exist within the fight, therefore we need to continue our development of this area, and in doing so, improve our all-round understanding of how to best exploit simple applications, ones that we may already know, but have never expanded on how we can actually use this information. Learning to move around while sitting is one thing, but trying to develop this whilst in chaos is another. So we start by following the process as always. Isolate the work so we get to grips with the objective, and then develop our striking abilities, or whatever the nucleus of the work just happens to be. We continue to build the classwork, and in this exercise the guys introduce fighting from laying. Once our brain catches a little bit of the essence as regards striking from the ground, it will have a very positive knock-on effect with the rest of the ground developments, as it will change the way we develop things technically and emotionally. If we absorb this work correctly, it will change the way we fight from the ground forever. We already know that in truth this area is very dangerous, but if we change the way we approach it, then we will find many different answers to those normally associated with this area of fighting. This next development is so simple yet amazing, as it gives the answer as to why we develop things the way we do. Being grabbed from behind in the middle of a fight is very typical. The consequence of this, well, there are millions. Well, let's start at the beginning. Being dragged to our knees and then dragged to sitting. It's so simple, eh? But why is this kind of work not common knowledge? Well, I know the answer to that, and I think you do too. This particular development will help to build a really strong physical presence while being ragged about. Striking, receiving, changing direction and being roughed up, well, these are all part of the process and a reflection of how it really is. So that's all we need to study. No magic, just study the reflection of the way it really is. Okay, focus pads back on and let's start mixing things up again. The boys accumulate the first part of the class plus carry elements from last week. The focus is to understand the connection process, especially when faced with more than one opponent. We are able to provoke the physical responses from the opponent, because as we learn how this area functions a little better, we can then bend the way the opponent's mind will operate. And when we can do this, well, the advantage swings our way a little more. In this next exercise we start escalating a little. Notice how Husto enters via window 1 and then pops under Greg's arm in order to take his back. The guys are then dragged through kneeling and sitting. Husto fires out some punch combinations before finally climbing back to his feet and changing the pads against the wall. As the boys travel through each class, they are constantly developing the destruction of the punch, elbow, knee and kick. No matter what the nucleus happens to be, this process of destruction is constant and persistent. In this exercise the boys integrate the fourth area, fighting off our backs. Again, lots of questions and problems here, but if we can change the way in which we view and study things, and hopefully we already have, then many things that may not have seemed possible before can now start to become a reality. The other thing we must do inside this exercise is take great notice of the second person whilst we're fighting from our backs. Although at this moment in time we're not actually fighting with the second person yet, we're only fighting with the immediate problem, the opponent on top, and just being very aware and taking note of what and where the second opponent is. Well, here is the conclusion of this week's class. Watch carefully as there is a lot going on in there, and some of what you are seeing is being carried over. The best way to follow this exercise is to pick one of the guys and follow his journey through this exercise. Watch and write down everything that he does, and make sure you try to use the KFM terminology if you can. This will become really important very soon, as we will only be using the KFM language in the not too distant future. So, until next week, train hard and have fun.